Chapter 12 takes a look at security, and this is an area that some people specialize when they're going to be going through and working within the IT field. So basically, when you take a look at this section, you should be able to implement basic host, data, and network security. Talk about what are threats, configure security, and make sure we do maintenance on an ongoing basis. We do have a couple labs that we're going to be completing in this chapter as well. So let's take a look at the types of threats. So when we take a look at the threats, we can take a look at a virus is transferred to another computer through email, USB drivers, file transfers, and even instant messaging. The virus is going to hide by attaching itself to code, software, or documents on the computer. When it's accessed, the virus executes and infects the computer. A virus can alter, corrupt, delete, or even erase an entire hard drive. It can prevent the computer from booting or even cause applications not to load or operate correctly. The user uses email accounts to spread the virus to other computers. It can lay dormant until it's summoned by the attacker. It can record keystrokes in order to capture sensitive information such as passwords and credit cards and send that data to the attacker. A Trojan horse is a type of malware. The horse usually looks like a useful program, but it carries malicious code. For example, Trojan horses are often provided with free online games. These games are downloaded onto the user's computers but also contain a Trojan horse. While playing the game, the horse is installed on the user's system and continues to operate even after the game has been closed. The types of Trojan horses we have are remote access, data sending, destructive, proxy, FTP, security software disabler, and DOS, denial of service. Malware, basically we have what are a couple of different areas. We have worms. They're a self-replicating program that is harmful to the network with the internet to slow or disrupt networks. Adware basically displays ads on your computer as pop-ups. Spyware is similar to adware, but is used to gather information about the user. They send the data to the attacker without your consent. Ransomware is basically denies access to your infected computer and demands a ransom be paid for the restriction to be removed. Rootkits are programs used by hackers to gain administrative account level to the computer. It's difficult to detect because it can control security programs to conceal itself. Often requires a reinstall of the operating system to remove it. Phishing is when a malicious party sends an email, calls on the phone, or places text within the intent to trick or the recipient into providing personal or financial information. Spam is also known as junk mail or unsolicited mail. In most cases, spam is used as a method of advertising. However, spam can be used to send harmful links, malware, or deceptive content. Watch for some of the most common indicators of spam. No subject line. The email is requesting an update to an account. The email is filled with misspelled words or strange punctuation. Links within the email are long and often cryptic. It's disguised as a correspondence from a legitimate business. And the email requests that you open an attachment. Social engineering occurs when an attacker tries to gain access to the equipment or network by tricking people providing necessary access. Examples of social engineering are pretexting. The attacker pretends to need personal financial data in order to confirm the identity. Something for something, quid pro quo. Hacker requests personal information from a party in exchange for something like a free gift. Baiting is an attacker leaves malware-infected flash drive in the public location. The person plugs it into their computer, unintentionally installing the malware. Here are some precautions you can use to protect against social engineering. Never give out your login credentials. Never post credential information in your work area. Lock your computer when you leave your desk. To secure a physical location, the business should implement access or entry control, rostering list who is permitted in. And always ask for the ID of unknown persons. Restricted access for visitors and escort all visitors. There is a great activity on 12.1.1.2 where you can go through and match up your activities. TCP or IP attacks are basically controlled communications on the internet. Unfortunately, some features of TCP/IP can be manipulated, resulting in network vulnerabilities. We have something called a denial of service. It is a type of attack that creates an abnormally large amount of requests to the network server, such as email or web servers. The goal of the attack is to completely overwhelm the server with false requests, creating a denial of service for legitimate users. A DDoS attack is like a DOS, distributed denial of service, but it's created using many more computers, sometimes in the thousands. The computers are first infected with the DDoS malware and then become zombie, an army of zombies or botnets. After the computers become infected, they sit dormant until they are required to create the DDoS attack. Zombie computers are located at different geographical locations to make it difficult to trace the origin. A SYN flood is a request of initial communication to establish a TCP connection. A SYN flood attacks randomly open TCP ports at the source of the attack and ties up the network equipment or computer with large amounts of false SYN requests. Spoofing is a computer pretends to be a trusted computer in order to gain access for resources. Man-in-the-middle attack performs by intercepting communication between computers to steal information throughout the network. An MITM attack could also be used to manipulate messages, relay false information between hosts, and the hosts are unaware the messages have been modified. Replay, data is transmitted or incepted and recorded by the attacker. These transmissions are replayed to the destination computer, and the destination computer handles the replay transmissions as authentic, sent by the original one. And then we also have DNS poisoning. Basically, the DNS record on the system are changed to the point of the imposter servers. The user attempts to access the legitimate site, but traffic is diverted to the imposter site. Basically, you should also take a look at the activity 12.1.1.6 for going through and managing those. 12-2 takes a look at our security protocols. Basically, we have a set of security objectives that ensure that security of a network, the data, and the computer system within the organization. The security policy is continually evolving document based on the change in technology, business, and employee requirement. This document is typically going to include identification and authentication policies, password policies, how often it's changed, length and digits, acceptable use, and remote access. We do have a Windows local security policy tool that can be used as well. Password guidelines are a very important component of a security policy. Any user that must log on to the computer or connect to the network should be required to have a password. Passwords also help to confirm that the logging of events is valid by ensuring that the user is the correct person. Here we have some options for password policies in Windows. We have enforced password history, maximum password age, minimum password length, password must meet complex requirements, store passwords using reversible encryption, and use the account lockout policy and account policies. Note, it's always a very good idea to lock your computer even when you're away from it for a few moments. When you're on a Windows computer, the Windows L key is going to go through and lock it for you. There are 3 levels of password protections are recommended. BIOS basically prevents the operating system from booting and the BIOS settings from being changed without appropriate passwords. Login is preventing access to the local network, and network prevents access to the network resources from unauthorized personnel. ActiveX filtering is when you're browsing the web and some pages may not work properly unless you install ActiveX control. Some controls are written by third parties and may be malicious. ActiveX filtering allows for web browsing without running ActiveX controls. A pop-up blocker is basically a web browser window that opens up on top of another. Some pop-ups are initiated while browsing, such as a link. Other pop-ups are initiated by a website. Most websites offer the ability to block pop-up windows, and this enables the user to limit the most of the pop-ups that appear. Smart Screen Filter is also an additional web filtering capabilities. Internet 11 provided the Smart Screen Filter feature. It detects phishing websites, analyzes it for suspicious items, and checks downloads against which may contain files to be malicious. In private browsing, which is also known as Google's incognito window, it retains information about the web pages. This is a convenient feature when using a computer at home that is secured with a password. However, this is a concern when using a public computer in a public library or hotel or an internet cafe. The information retained by the web browser can be recovered and exploited by others. To improve security using a public computer, web browsers provide the ability to web anonymously without retaining information. Biometrics and smart cards, basically we have the additional security of access to our device. Biometric security compares physical characteristics against stored profiles to authenticate people. A profile is a data file containing the characteristics of the individual. Basically, a fingerprint reader is a common biometric device. A smart card is a plastic device about the size of a credit card with a chip embedded in it. The chip is intelligent and it can go through and process, store, and safeguard data. Key fob is a device that's small enough to attach to a keyring and uses a two-factor authentication, which is more secure than a username and password. First, the user enters a personal identification number. If correctly entered, the security key fob will display a number. This is the second factor in which the user must enter login device. We want to back up our data. We have file and folder permissions. And then we'll take a look at a BitLocker. You can choose to encrypt your entire hard drive using a feature called BitLocker. To use BitLocker, you have at least 2 volumes must be present on the hard disk. The system volume is left unencrypted and must be at least 100 megabytes. This volume holds the files required by Windows to boot. Before using BitLocker, the Trusted Platform Module, TPM, must be enabled in the BIOS. The TPM is a specialized chip installed on the motherboard. The TPM stores specific information on the host system, such as encryption key, digital certificates, and passwords. Data wiping includes removing files from storage devices when they're no longer needed. Simply deleting files or reformatting the drive may not be enough to secure your privacy. Hard drive recycling and destruction. Companies with sensitive data should always establish clear policies for storage media disposable. So there's 2 choices, recycled or destroyed. Destroying the hard drive fully ensures that data cannot be recovered from it. The following types of anti-malware programs are available: antivirus protection, adware, phishing, spyware, and trusted and untrusted sources. Software manufacturers must regularly create and dispense new packages to fix flaws and vulnerabilities in products. Because new viruses are always being developed, security software must continually be updated. Malware detection program looks for patterns in programming code for the software of the computer. These patterns are determined by analyzing viruses that are incepted on the internet and on local area networks. These code patterns are called signatures. The publisher of protection software compiles these signatures into virus definition tables. The heuristic viruses detection, 2 ways that it works. Number 1, the virus software runs the suspected program in a virtual box or sandbox to see how it behaves. If it's problem, it's quarantine. If it looks at the code to see if it's similar to new viruses. Be cautious of malicious rogue antivirus programs that appear while browsing the internet. Most of these rogue antivirus products display an ad or pop-up that looks like an actual window warning. They usually state that the computer has been infected and must be cleaned. Clicking anywhere inside the window may begin the download and the installation of the malware. When faced with a warning window that is suspect, never click inside the warning window. Close the tab of the browser to see if the warning window goes away. If you have a malware protection program that detects that a computer is infected, it removes or quarantines the threat, but the computer is still most likely at risk. The first step of an infected computer is to remove the computer from the network or to prevent the computers from becoming infected. Then follow the incident response policies that are in place. This may include notifying IT. For a home user, update the malicious software program. Many antivirus programs can be set to run on system startup before loading Windows. Viruses and worms can be difficult to remove from a computer. Software tools are used to remove these viruses and repair the computer code. You can also take a look at booting your computer in safe mode to prevent most drivers from being loaded. A system restore service may include infected files in the restored point. After the computer has been cleaned of any malware, the system restore files should be deleted. We have common encryption types. We have hash encoding, symmetric encryption, and asymmetric encryption. Hashing ensures the integrity of the message. That means it measures the message is not corrupt or been tampered with during the transmission. Hashing uses a mathematical function to create the numerical value called the message digest that is unique to the data. If even one character is changed, the function output will not be the same. and the function can only be used one way. Therefore, knowing the message digest does not allow the attacker to recreate the message, making it difficult for someone to intercept and change message. The most popular hashing algorithm is now Secure Hash Algorithm, SHA, which is replacing the older Message Digest 5, MD5. Symmetric ensures confidentiality of the message. If an encrypted message is intercepted, it cannot be understood. It can only be decrypted, i.e. read, by using the password, i.e. the key, that is encrypted with. Symmetric encryption requires both sides of the encryption conversation to use an encryption key to encode and decode the data. Asymmetric encryption also ensures confidentiality of the message. It requires two keys, a private and a public one. The public key can be widely distributed, including email and plain text or posting on the web. The private key is kept by an individual and must not be disclosed to any other party. These keys can be used in two ways. Public encryption key is used when a single organization needs to receive encrypted text from a number of sources. In the case of digital signatures, a private key is required for encrypting the message. This approach allows the receiver to be confident that the source of the message can only be encrypted using the originator private key. SSID, a service set identifier, is the name of the wireless network. The wireless router or access point broadcasts the SSID by default so that the wireless devices can detect the wireless network. When the SSID broadcast has been disabled on the wireless router or access point, you must manually enter the SSD on the wireless device to connect to the wireless network. Disabling the SSID broadcast provides very little security. If the SSID broadcast is disabled, the user who wants to connect to the wireless network and who knows the SSID of the network can simply enter it in manually. An advanced hacker can easily intercept this information and use it to impersonate your router and capture your credentials. A wireless security module uses encryption system to encode information being sent to prevent unwanted capture of data. Many routers offer Wi-Fi protection setup. WPS allows for very easy Wi-Fi security setup. Both the router and the wireless device have a button that, when both are pressed, automatically configures. Universal plug-and-play protocol that enables the device to dynamically add themselves to a network without the need for user intervention. Although convenient, Universal plug-and-play is not secure. Universal plug-and-play protocol has no method for authenticating devices. Therefore, it considers every device trustworthy. In addition, Universal plug-and-play protocol has numerous security vulnerabilities. Malware can be used in the plug-and-play to redirect traffic. Many homes and small office routers have Universal plug-and-play enabled by default. Therefore, check this configuration and disable it. A hardware firewall is a physical filtering component that inspects data packets from the network before they reach computers. A hardware firewall passes two different types of traffic on your network: response to your traffic that originates from inside your network, and traffic designated for a port they've intentionally left open. There are several types of hardware firewall configurations: packet filters, stateful packet inspection, application layer, and proxy. A demilitarized zone, a DMZ, is a subnetwork that provides services to an untrusted network. An email, web, or FTP server is often placed in DMZ so that traffic using the server does not come inside the local network. This protects the internal network from attack by the traffic, but does not protect the servers in the DMZ. On the wireless router, you can create a DMZ zone for one device by forwarding all traffic ports from the internet to a specific IP address or MAC address. Physical equipment protection methods is important data security. When a computer is taken, the data is also stolen. It's important to restrict access to premises using fences, locked doors, and gates. For example, a man trap is often used to prevent tailgating. It's a small room with two doors, one which needs to be closed before the other can be opened. Protected network infrastructure, such as cabling, telecommunication network, and network devices, which include the following: secured telecommunication rooms, equipment cabin and cages, cable locks, wireless detection for unauthorized access, hardware firewall, network management system, and a wireless device to prevent physical resets. Your Windows, Linux, and Mac's computer user passwords for logging into a computer does not prevent someone from booting your computer from a CD or flash drive with different operating system. After it's booted, the malicious user could access or erase your files. Auto Run is a window feature that automatically allows instructions from a special file called autorun.inf. When a new media such as a CD, DVD, or flash drive is inserted into the computer, autoplay is different from auto run. Autoplay feature is a convenient way to automatically identify which new media, optical discs, or external hard drives. Multi-factor authentication is two-factor authentication using a security key fob. They are something you know, such as a password, and something you have such as a security fob. Multi-factor authentication adds something you are, such as a fingerprint scan. Bring your own device, BYOD. Personal and corporate-owned mobile devices must also be protected. One of the biggest challenges to a company that is to the degree in which the company can control the device. Sensitive, confidential, and private information must be protected, no matter who owns the device. A BYOD policy can save the company a lot of money, but the user must agree to follow the policy. A good security practice is to create and apply security profiles to mobile devices. A security profile is usually a text file that defines the security settings and the specific information on the device. These settings can be applied directly to the device and a specific user. We have some common preventative maintenance techniques that we're going to take a look at. We'll have operating system updates, data backups, firewall, user accounts when you're going to terminate an employee when they're going to have access. We'll have guest accounts, login times. Some situations you only want to have employees be able to log in at a certain time. Failed login attempts, what's going to happen after a certain number of times they've logged in incorrectly. Idle timeout and screen lock. And groups. Assigning users to a group can be easier for management because you can create and identify locals, delete groups, and create local user accounts. Our types of groups you can have are going to be administrator, guest, and users. Note, you should not add your personal account to an administrator group. It puts you at risk for a Trojan horse virus. See if you can remember these. Take a look at identifying the problem, or theory of probable cause, and theory of determine the cause. Make sure you have everything up and working, and document and find your outcomes. Here are some common problems for security. A user receives thousands of junk mail emails a day. What would you do with that? A rogue wireless access point is discovered on your network. Flash drives are infecting computers. Windows update fails, and system files have been renamed.